Here's the culprit count for this book. Here's the culprit count for the entire series. And here's the end of book culprit count. Mr. Body should stop inviting Miss Scarlet to visit him.
Argo Font Book Review. Argo Font Book Review.
Case 1. Someone steals a gun from the study while Plum is in the library. Scarlet and White fight over the meal that White prepared, while Mustard challenges a man who's not the culprit. Who shot Mrs. Peacock? It was White. We deduce that she must have made the meal in the kitchen, and the kitchen's connected to the study by a secret passageway. I did not like this solution. Now, the information is contained in the story itself, but I still feel that it's asking way too much of me to know where all the rooms are relative to each other on the game board. Case 2. This is a word puzzle. You have to make a list of everybody's names. You remove the name with the least letters, the most vowels, the name that contains the word it, the name without a passing grade, and all the letters that are shared in common. One name has letters that spell a word. Whose name? Mustard. Case 3, getting back to a more usual case for this series. Green has the candlestick, Peacock has the wrench, Scarlet has the knife, Mustard falls asleep. Candlestick is attacked by Wrench, who's attacked by a male culprit. Mrs. White and the person with the knife attack. Who's the culprit? Professor Plum. Now, the book uses the process of elimination to say all the others are innocent, but that is not necessary. We know that it's a male culprit. It's not Mustard because he's asleep, and it's not Green because he was the first one who got knocked out. Therefore, it's Plum, and we don't even need to take the other 3 attacks into account. Case 4. Mr. Body plays trumpet and annoys everyone to the point where they want to murder him. Peacock gets a pipe, Mustard gets a knife, Plum gets a revolver, Green gets a wrench, White gets a rope. Scarlet is the smart one, she gets earplugs and goes to sleep. Pipe knocks out Revolver and steals it, Knife stabs Rope, Revolver steals Rope, Wrench is knocked out, and we have a surprisingly violent scene where Knife, Rope, and Mr. Body fight to the death for 2 pages. Knife takes Candlestick, Rope takes Knife, Knife takes Candlestick again, Candlestick kills Knife. Who's the culprit? It's Mrs. Peacock, and it's really hard to follow this one. She changed weapons at least 4 times. Case 5. Everybody flies kites, which match their colors. From left to right, we have Scarlet, Mustard, Green, Peacock, Plum, and White. Peacock moves between Mustard and Scarlet, and that's it. I'm already confused. That one trade, I'm out. I'm done. I can't follow this anymore. Green attacks the person to his left, Scarlet goes right of Plum, Mustard sabotages Purple, White goes between Green and Peacock, Scarlet shoots the male's kite, White attacks the person to her left, Plum attacks the kite on the right. Whose kite is left? It's Mrs. White, and it's basically impossible to solve this puzzle without keeping track of every single move. Case 6. Peacock, Green, Mustard, and White have a cooking competition, and all the others rank their favorites. They put riddles to say which ones they like the most, and I'll be honest, I did not understand half of these riddles. For example, Body's second choice is not one made by a woman or my first choice. Yeah, he says, my second choice is not my first choice. Well, of course it's not your first choice, it's your second choice. How is that a clue? Plum also notes his third choice is not his first choice, so either I am totally missing something here, or our heroes cannot count. Anyway, first and second place go to Green and Mustard. Case 7. Miss Scarlet announces she's going to be married. It's not real, this is just a trick so she can get expensive wedding presents and steal them. This is another puzzle where you have to keep track of everybody's weapons and the weapons switch. Rather than confuse everybody, I'll just say there are 10 different trades. The culprit is Mr. Green. Case 8. Body forces everybody to say nice things about each other and give valentines, and then they all hand them out, so they pass to the left, and then to the right, and 2 to the left, and then they swap across. And along the way, Plum drops 1, Scarlet steals 1 back, Green takes 2 from the female left of him. Who has the most valentines is your question. The answer is Mustard. This is actually a double puzzle. You need to figure out where everybody is seated in relation to each other. Then you go back and keep track of who had valentines when. Case 9. Everybody talks about their allergies. Plum is allergic to goose feather quilts, Mustard has hay fever, and Green is allergic to chalk dust. Scarlet is strangled with her feather boa, and all 3 men have an allergic reaction. So Plum says he was in the lounge, Mustard says he was in the library, Green says he was in the billiards room. Who is the lying killer? Professor Plum, he's allergic to goose feathers, and the culprit's murder weapon is a feather boa. That makes sense, but I prefer the deduction that Green's innocent because his chalk allergy was triggered by pool cue chalk. That was pretty clever. Case 10, it's another case where you have to keep track of weapons. White gets a knife, Scarlet gets a lead pipe, Peacock gets the revolver, Plum gets the candlestick, Mustard gets the wrench, and Green gets the rope. Green steals Mustard's weapon, Mustard steals the candlestick, Plum steals Mustard's weapon, and Green has the wrench. I was legitimately surprised. The book says outright Green has the wrench at this point. After 3 trades? Every other case, we have to keep track of the trades. Here, the book just tells you what the trade result was at the end. Cool. So, we've got a bunch more trades, though. Mustard is hit with a blunt weapon. Mustard's attacker switches with White. Green still has the wrench. Green, Scarlet, and White attack Mr. Body. Mr. Body is stabbed to death. Who did it? Scarlet. We know that the culprit attacked Mustard with a blunt object and switched. Well, it's not the candlestick because Mustard had the candlestick. He didn't knock himself out. It's not the wrench because Green didn't switch out the wrench. Therefore, the blunt weapon is the pipe, and it's Scarlet. The end. Post-book follow-up. You can tell this book has a new author just from the jokes. Instead of using slapstick, the new author uses puns. So many puns, I'd say at least 3/4 of the jokes were puns. There are also a lot of jokes where the characters insult each other. Those were hilarious, and most of them were puns in disguise. As I said, the book is surprisingly violent. I think that's a side effect of removing the slapstick humor. If the characters aren't joke hurting each other, then they are hurting each other for real, and that's kind of gruesome, especially in the scenes where Body fights back against his murderer. I think the only exception to the no slapstick rule is case 7, where Scarlet breaks out some karate moves and throws people across the room multiple times, and they're all perfectly fine. Overall, I enjoyed the book. The puzzles were not as good as the previous books. Most of them were keep track of all the swaps, but there was definitely an attempt to have variety, and all the jokes were pretty good, so I give clue number 9, Mystery in the Moonlight, a thumbs up.